Okay, so let's start with the basics. Tariffs are essentially taxes. But instead of the government saying, hey, we're taxing you directly, they slap it onto imported goods. And who pays the price for that in the end?
We do.
Exactly. Us. Regular folks just trying to get by. Because when tariffs are imposed on, say, clothes or groceries or cars, companies pay more to bring those products into the country. And they're not eating that cost. They're passing it on to us at the checkout line.
Right, and this isn't just theoretical. The new round of tariffs is affecting pretty much everything. Clothes, prices are climbing. Produce, spiking because so much of it is imported. Even your morning coffee might cost more if those beans come from overseas.
It's wild. I mean, just last week, my neighbor Cheryl was lamenting how much her grocery bill shot up. She's got 3 kids to feed, Ralph, and she's over here talking about having to cut back on, you're going to love this peanut butter of all things.
Wow, peanut butter. But yeah, Cheryl's story highlights what happens when tariffs hit the areas where it hurts the most. Essential everyday goods. And here's the kicker. We're just getting started. These rising costs ripple through the entire economy.
Totally. And the thing that just baffles me is how these tariffs aren't just, inconvenient. They're potentially catastrophic for the economy. Like, explain this whole stagflation thing. What does that even mean?
Sure, stagflation is when you get hit with the worst of two worlds. Stagnant economic growth, so no new jobs or investment, and inflation, so prices keep going up. It's like trying to climb out of quicksand while someone's throwing weights at you.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, and we've seen this before. The 1970s are a textbook example. High oil prices, skyrocketing costs, wages not keeping up. It was an economic mess. Now these new tariffs could lead us right back there. Higher costs and no growth or job losses. It's a disaster.
Okay, this is starting to sound like a horror movie for anyone who shops, drives, or, exists. Why don't we see more people freaking out about this?
That's the thing. It's so technical and layered that it flies under the radar until it's hitting people front and center. But by that time, we're already deep in trouble. You look at history, and there's a clear playbook. Tariffs start the cycle. Rising costs choke growth and
here come the layoffs.
exactly. Jobs disappear, businesses fold. And Congress? Silent. This is why it's so important to understand the mechanisms behind this stuff.
Yeah, because none of this happens in a vacuum. I mean, tariffs don't just magically appear. We're letting them happen. But don't get me started on Congress. Speaking of Congress, Ralph, you mentioned how silent they've been, but aren't tariffs technically a tax? And if I've got my civics right, taxes are supposed to be Congress's job under the Constitution. So why does it feel like they've just handed over the keys?
Because they pretty much have. Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution explicitly states that only Congress has the power to levy taxes and duties. It was designed that way to ensure taxation stayed in the hands of the representatives the people elect. But over the years, they've passed these vague laws that let the president impose tariffs almost on a whim. Cite national security, and presto, new tariffs. No debate, no vote, no checks and balances.
Wait, so you're telling me Congress just signed a permission slip? Like, hey, Mr. President, you're the teacher now. Have fun with economic policy on your own.
Honestly, yeah, pretty much. It's legislative laziness at best, and at worst, political cowardice. They've passed these loophole-ridden laws over decades, and now we're paying the price. It's a dangerous precedent because tariffs aren't just economic tools, they're power grabs. This isn't just bad for wallets. It's bad for democracy.
Right? Because if Congress doesn't step in and reclaim this role, what's next? The president gets to decide personal income taxes too?
Exactly. And here's the thing. This isn't about partisan politics, or whether you support Trump or not. It's about the balance of power. When Congress shirks its duty, it shifts power to the executive branch, bypassing the transparency and accountability the system was designed to provide. That's a direct hit to democratic governance.
And what's so wild is how quietly this is all happening. It's like Congress is out here doing its best impression of nothing to see here, folks. While behind the scenes, they're, complicit?
Yes, they issue toothless statements, maybe shake their heads publicly, but when it comes to actually legislating, they do nothing. It's infuriating because we depend on them to act in our interest. Instead, they leave us stuck with inflation, fewer jobs, and peanut butter rationing. Your neighbor Cheryl deserves better.
She really does. Poor Cheryl.
But jokes aside, this silence from Congress is dangerous. Tariffs reshape the economy in real and immediate ways. We're already seeing that. And the lack of public debate, the lack of transparency, is a huge red flag. The American people have the right to know when and why these decisions are being made.
So, what needs to change? Like, where's the fix here? Because sitting around waiting for them to grow a backbone doesn't seem like a winning strategy.
You're right. The fix starts with transparency. Congress needs to do its job. Tariffs should be debated, voted on, and tied to clear objectives that serve the public, not just excuses about economic emergencies. Let's see some accountability.
And let's not forget, a little pressure from us, the people, never hurts. We've got to step it up and demand, some real governance here. All right, Ralph. We left off talking about accountability and how Congress needs to step up. Tariffs are hitting people's wallets, democratic norms are eroding, and it feels like we're standing on the sidelines. So, with everything on the table, how do we start pushing back?
Absolutely. We're not powerless here, even if it feels like it sometimes. Step one is reaching out to your representatives. Call their offices, send emails, show up to town halls if you can. Let them know this matters to you because the reality is they pay attention when enough people make noise.
Oh, totally. Freak them out a little. Nothing says do your job like a flood of phone calls from angry constituents. I've actually had friends tell me their reps started sweating when people showed up en masse. It works.
It really does. And here's where platforms like VoteDown come in. It's not just about emails and calls. VoteDown lets people send a much stronger message by pledging to financially support challengers. It's about consequences. If your representative is part of the problem, you can help put someone better in their seat.
Yeah, that's the kind of accountability we're talking about. Just imagine Cheryl, my peanut butter martyr of the week, rallying everyone in her neighborhood. Like, you raise my grocery bill, I raise funds for your competition. It's kind of brilliant.
Exactly, and we've seen examples of this working. Take those community-driven campaigns where incumbents were unseated because people came together, raised money, knocked on doors, and boom, made it happen. It's proof that grassroots action can lead to huge changes.
And it's not just about elections, right? Communities have challenged policies and won. Like that little town who fought back against a factory project that was about to wreck their water supply. They organized, petitioned, and they stopped it. If they can do that, we can tackle this Congress tariff mess too.
Absolutely. It's all connected. Whether it's local or national, when people stand up and get involved, they remind the powers that be who's really in charge. And funding change is such a key part of that. Supporting candidates who actually represent the public, well, that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, because let's be honest, money talks. If we're serious about reclaiming our voice, we've got to put our dollars to work, even if it's just 10 or 20 bucks at a time. It adds up.
Exactly. It's about building momentum. Accountability starts with all of us. You, me, Cheryl, and everyone listening. We don't have to accept the status quo. We can demand better. But it takes action, Amanda. It takes all of us stepping up and saying enough.
So, on that note, folks, here's your homework. Reach out to your reps, blow up their inboxes, look up platforms like VoteDown that help you make your voice and your votes count. And hey, if Cheryl can survive without peanut butter for a few weeks, we can rally together to fix this, right?
Right? It's going to take persistence, but when we act together, we're unstoppable.
And that's all for today, friends. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, this is your government, your country. Let's make it work for us.